Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to today's video. I've actually tried to film this introduction, don't even know how many times. I'm just literally obsessed with her. So I thought I would come on and give you all an update. I'm so hot. Purely because I know my posts and my videos, obviously there's only been like 2 in the past month. And I've tried to give updates, but the last video that went up on Tuesday, that video was literally from my stay in hospital when Penelope was born, and obviously the day that we got home and that Darcy and Ollie met her. So a lot has happened in between. What I am gonna do, oh, you okay? What I am gonna do is I'm gonna link that last video here just on the top if you want to watch that before I get into everything, just if you've missed that video, and I'll also in the description bar link my birth video. So just really quickly, Penelope was born on the 10th of September, and obviously I have no idea what even day it is. I think it's the 11th of October, so she's like literally a month old. She was 4 weeks old on Friday, so but she is just actually a month old. And to be honest with you, it's been a really hard month, hence my absence from YouTube. So in all of my pregnancy updates, you'll know that I struggled come the end with obviously her growth and having daily monitoring at the hospital, and then she was born prematurely via cesarean section. It was elective, but I didn't have a choice, if that makes sense. So it wasn't an emergency as in they did it when I was up there having a check. They told me they were doing it in 2 days time to allow for steroid cover. Just a little backstory. So we had quite a lengthy stay in hospital. Altogether, I was in for 11 days because I was admitted for the 2 days before she was born because of her heart rate. And then we were in together for 8 days. So she came home when she was 8 days old. And basically what happened is she dropped 13% body weight and she really struggled with her jaundice levels and needed light therapy. I found it really hard because Tom, my husband, is the only person who was allowed at the hospital. So with the rules and regulations, I know it's actually different, obviously, in whatever country you're in, obviously the rules are different. But actually here in the UK, it actually differs per hospital. So there's a few people that I follow on Instagram where their birth partners were only allowed to stay for cesarean sections, or if you're in labour, while the labour or while the cesarean section is happening and the lead up beforehand. But once the baby's born, they were only allowed to stay for 2 hours after, and then they had to schedule in an hour's visiting time for the length of stay that the mum and baby were in hospital, and then they weren't allowed back in until you were discharged. So at our hospital, it seemed more lenient than that. So Tom was allowed in. Their visiting hours were 10 until 7. While I was actually up on the delivery suite prior to her arriving, they let him stay until 10 at night. He didn't ever stay that long because obviously she's my 3rd baby and I've got 2 children at home. But yeah, nobody else could come, but Tom could come and obviously spend a few hours every day with us. But he held down the 4 at home and was taking the other 2 to school. So we were discharged on Saturday the 18th of September. As I said, she was 8 days old, and the midwife phoned us the following day, which would have been the Sunday. So bear in mind I had a cesarean section, and I think I included this in one of my last video. From about 4 days post section, I can only describe it as like a burning pulling pain. When I say burning, the sensation that I felt was kind of like someone had like a red hot poker or a candle or a knife or something just dragging it through the lower left side of my abdomen. I struggled to walk. I had to hold on to things. So she was in one of the little wheelie cribs when we were in hospital, because obviously wherever I went she had to come with me. So I was using that for support, but obviously moving around the room I'd constantly be holding onto the bed, like whatever I could get my hands on basically. I flagged this with every member of staff there, the midwives, and I had a couple of swabs taken of my scar, just to check if there was any like infection like on the surface, but there was never any oozing. Sorry, this might be a bit TMI, but there was never any oozing or anything, or bleeding, weeping, anything at all from the actual wound itself. So those swabs came back absolutely fine, and they just said to me it's just where obviously nerves may have been cut through, they knit back together, so that's the pain you're feeling. Obviously while I was in the hospital I was able to be on medication, so I'm actually allergic to codeine, so I couldn't have any dihydrocodeine. I wasn't allowed that, and I wasn't actually allowed codeine, so I would have paracetamol, ibuprofen, and also they would give me Oromorph. Obviously paracetamol and ibuprofen don't really do a whole lot anyway. This is my 3rd cesarean section, so obviously I know there's a recovery with it. The Oromorph didn't really do a lot other than made me feel a bit like spaced out, but obviously I could still feel the pain. I just looked like I was completely like up in the clouds somewhere, you know. So I struggled with that, and when I got home, like how I'm sat on my sofa now, I couldn't bear to sit down, and I just thought it was because the sofa's quite soft. So the only kind of relief that I found was if I went up and laid on our bed, see, because I could sit upright, but I kind of had to push my body like a little bit forward like this. So the following day after we got home, which would be the Sunday, I had a call from the midwife who said they weren't going to come out because it was a weekend, and that they wanted to have me go to the surgery the following day, which was a Monday. So there was no offer of a home because obviously I couldn't drive. I could literally barely walk. I was really doubled over with walking, and I kind of just spent the time upstairs because it was hard to get up and down the stairs. Luckily Tom was still off at this point, so he drove up, and what had happened with feeding, Penelope had been taken completely. They said do not put her to the breast, so I was having to pump. So I was still doing that because I wanted to get signed off. How it works here in the UK is you go for a couple of visits, and depending on the baby's weight loss, the reason we stayed is because her weight loss was greater than 10%. So at this appointment on the Monday, she'd actually gained a really good amount, and I think her weight loss was down at 8% or 8.7%. So they weren't ready to sign us off. They wanted a couple more appointments. I think the next one was 3 days to get us down to, basically they want them back at birth weight within 2 weeks of them being delivered. So I mean, at this rate, we were going to go past that because obviously we were in hospital for 8 days after she was born. So they said carry on with the pumping, and what had happened then in between is my health visitor, who then follows on from the midwife, had come. So that was the Monday. She came in on the Wednesday and she weighed Penelope, and she said, I don't want you to get nervous. It might be that she might not have, because she'd had like 125 gram weight gain in 2 days, and what the midwife said is that the average is about 25 a day. So Penelope was kind of like doubling what she should have been doing. So we just thought, like, obviously what we're doing is working, and the health visitor said don't be surprised if she's still at the same weight as Monday, because obviously that weight gain was like crazy massive amount. So she weighed her, and again she'd had like 120 gram weight gain in 2 days. So she said, do you know what, she said, I think what you can do is just start introducing a couple of actual feeds where she's on the breast. And so it made me just feel amazing, because I was exclusively pumping my breast milk, so that is all she was getting. While we were in hospital, she was having a couple of bottles of formula to top her up, because I was in there a lot of time on my own. When I was home, obviously Tom could feed her a bottle that I'd already pumped, and then I could pump while he was doing that, so I kind of had like an extra pair of hands, whereas I didn't really have that in hospital. So she said, why don't you try that? So I was really chuffed, and I even said to Tom that day, I said, oh, let's go in the car and get a coffee to celebrate. Like, I was really chuffed, and I kind of wanted to go and pick Darcy and Ollie up from school, and walking was quite a struggle, but I think because I was feeling a bit like on cloud 9, I kind of pushed through the pain a little bit. And so the next appointment we had was Saturday morning, so then it was like a 3 day, or no, yeah, technically like a 2 and a bit day. So I carried on offering the breast and still pumping, and she was still going like every 3 hours between her feeds. And then we got to the appointment on Saturday, and by this point my stomach was absolute agony, and I hobbled in, and the main focus was on Penelope and her weight. and she'd lost weight. So they then said we want her to completely be off the breast. So at this point I was feeling really like deflated. I was crying. I've actually put, if you saw me walking over, I've brought a couple of tissues because like I just can't believe everything that's happened, and I'm probably going to get emotional. So I'm fine, but I'm just like really emotional over everything. So they told me once again to stop putting her to the breast and just keep pumping, because they needed to get her to birth weight to sign her off. So it kind of, to me, I know that's the procedure, but it was kind of like once she was signed off, then was I ever allowed to put her on the breast? Like I kind of wasn't given any clear like guidance on what to do, and I just felt like really gutted. And I mentioned to them about my scar, and like, they saw me doubled over walking. Like obviously I wasn't even attempting to pick the car seat up. Tom was like carrying the car seat, and she said, yeah, I think I was speaking to a trainee midwife, and the other midwife must have heard me, and she came in and she said, yeah, what you're experiencing is nerve damage, and just keep it with the paracetamol. So obviously, but at this point we were like, what were you then, Penny? You must have been, she was like almost like 16 days old at this point. And I remember with Darcy and Ollie, who were my elder two that I had sections with, the first like week, 10 days, every day you kind of saw an improvement. And on my Instagram I was forever saying about this pain, and a few people said they experienced it and they got better, but mine seemed to be getting worse. And then so that was the Saturday. So that was, so the following day, Sunday, we had family coming round to see Penelope. So obviously I was, again, a bit like on the high of I'm home from the hospital with my baby, kind of like excitement. Do you know what I mean? You're like kind of just trying to blank it out sort of thing. And I actually started bleeding again, and I had stopped bleeding about 5 or 6 days after I had her, which I'd experienced before with the other two. My blood loss wasn't that great. It wasn't that heavy, I mean not that great, so it wasn't particularly heavy, and it kind of like started heavy and then just typically just went away. And then the Sunday evening I started bleeding again, and I just thought, oh, it's probably where I've been up and down the stairs because we have family around to see Penelope, and kind of just thought I've like overexerted myself, didn't think anything of it. So the following day was Monday. At this point Tom is still taking my older two children to school because I can barely walk at this point, and my bleeding was quite heavy. I stayed at home, didn't think too much of it, just thought, you know, I'll rest today. So I literally didn't do anything other than getting up to pump, come down to sterilise bottles, which Tom was helping me, but obviously if he was at the school run and I needed to do it, then I would come down. But I really tried to stay off of my feet as much as I can to see if that would help. It didn't. The following day on Tuesday, not TMI, again, I'm really sorry, but the blood was literally pouring out of me and I was losing really big clots. So I phoned the hospital and they said I immediately needed to go up and be checked out. So off we went back to the hospital, and I was absolutely devastated. With the experience of being in for so long with Penelope, it was like the last place I wanted to go. I was taken into a ward. It was only me in there, but I think it was a ward that wasn't in use, or one that was like kind of like just for like ad hoc use. Absolutely freezing. There were no lights on, the lights didn't work, and I was kind of like left all day. Had obviously several checks, and they said we think you may have some retained products, but it might just be that you've got a bit of an infection, so we want to do run a course of IV antibiotics through an IV, so we need to admit you. So by this point I was absolutely devastated. I'd been through like all the trauma of being in with her, not seeing my other two children, being away from Tom, and then having the excitement of coming home and then being admitted back in. They had to do several checks on me internally, which the pain in my tummy, and obviously I was quite sore in that area, I couldn't have done. And obviously I've had smear tests and things like that, which obviously aren't pleasant, but I can do them absolutely fine. I couldn't even let them do what they needed to do. They couldn't get a cannula in my vein, and there were no anaesthetists to give me a local to get them in, because apparently my veins are really small and they have trouble getting it in. So they then decided to give me a course of oral antibiotics for 5 days, and because it was oral, they said I didn't need to be admitted and I could go home. So I was quite chuffed about that. This had taken like pretty much all day. I went up there at about 9:45 in the morning, and by this point it was like 3 o'clock. So Tom had left to go and pick our two children up from school, and I think I'd probably been forgotten about. I know the hospitals are really, really busy, but I buzzed on the buzzer because Penny had had her express bottle. I did have my pump with me, but I didn't have another teat to put on the bottle. It's at home, so I wasn't expecting to be admitted, and I wasn't expecting to be there for that long. I just thought I would have, I don't know, some antibiotics and sent on my way. So I buzzed the midwife, and she apologised and said that they'd been caught up. So she did my discharge and brought me my antibiotics. Well, so I go home, take the antibiotics, and it seems to clear the bleeding up. The pain at this point is like unbearable, but it clears the bleeding up. So I think, okay, well, they're working, they've sorted that out, so maybe that's what the pain is, it's just really inflamed. So obviously I follow on that week, I get to the following weekend, and by this point the pain is really, really unbearable, that I am, when I say bent over, I mean I'm literally cannot stand up straight, and I'm crawling at this point, literally crawling up and down my stairs, hysterically crying. I couldn't come in here and sit on this sofa, and it got to the point on a Sunday, Tom had cooked a roast dinner. I couldn't even sit at our dining room table. I was just so, I knew something was wrong, and the Sunday that it kind of all hit a bit of a head, I was up crying all night. Tom wanted to call an ambulance. He wanted me to call the out-of-hours doctors, but I kind of knew deep down that if I did, they would take me into hospital, and I really didn't want to, just because of everything that had gone on, and there's so many failings and things that were missed. I just felt like I wasn't taken seriously, and that things were, I was just kind of like a bit neglected. That's how I felt, and I'm not normally one to complain, but during this pregnancy, the care I've received and postpartum afterwards has just resulted in so many failings. So the Monday morning I phoned the hospital again and said, I was in with you last week for a bleed, that cleared up, the pain hasn't gone away, I now can't stand up. I mean, if you ask me what it is out of 10, I would say 50, and I'm not one to ever complain about pain, but obviously when I can't care for my baby, it had got to the point then that I could no longer pump because I couldn't sit upright in bed. I could only kind of lay down, and obviously I've got an electric pump, but it's not ideal to have it on you while you're laid down, because it's not, you get more milk out like as you sat up. So I was heartbroken over that. They told me they didn't have any beds, so this was Monday morning, and that I needed to ring back at 12. So I phoned my GP and asked if there was any stronger pain relief I could have while I wait. And they told me I could probably try naproxen, because I'm allergic to codeine, it's like really limits me. So she said, see how you go. Obviously you'll be at the hospital by 12, so they will be able to give you something stronger. So I phoned the hospital at 12. They tell me to ring back at 3 because there's still no beds, and I would just be waiting around. So by this point I'm completely like, just completely done. I phoned the doctor back to get the naproxen. They won't give it to me. I've got to have another phone call for a doctor to ring me back to give it to me. So at this point I'm just losing my, I lost my head. But cut a long story short, they got me a bed. I was back at the hospital from 4. They could see, obviously I had to be wheelchaired in because I couldn't walk. Even sitting in the car was unbearable, like absolutely unbearable. And while I was led down, we discovered that there was actually a lump under my scar. Now, I was seen by 2 different doctors on that Monday evening. One doctor recorded it, because I've still actually got my notes here, and I've been going back through everything because I am going to be making a complaint about all of this. But the first doctor described it as a 1 centimetre fibroid size lump. He then got his senior in, who said, no, actually it's like a 4 centimetre mass. He said, I'm thinking it's a hematoma, but we need to send you for a scan to clarify, because it could be like a hernia on the incision. There was nobody available that evening to do the scan. They did want to admit me, but they said there isn't, other than giving me pain relief, there's not a whole lot they could do other than me just being sat there being completely miserable, because obviously they couldn't do any procedures that evening. So they would just manage my pain relief. And at this point, I couldn't care for Penny on my own because I couldn't stand up. So it meant that she would have to go home with Tom, which obviously I did not want to do, because at this point she wasn't even 3 weeks old. And I felt like I'd already just kind of like, having to stop being able to pump and breastfeed, that really got in my head. So they agreed to let me go home, and they sent me home with a really strong like internal painkiller. Kind of sort of gave me a little bit of relief, didn't really stop the pain, but I was able to drift in and out. And they booked me a scan the following day, which was the Tuesday, for 2 p.m. So I waited out, just laid on the bed, didn't move. I mean, I wasn't even able to shower, and obviously I was having like night sweat, so I felt absolutely disgusting. I just felt like a shadow of myself. To be honest, I just said to Tom, I'm so depressed, this is not how it's meant to be. But he took me up for the scan. He wasn't allowed in, and neither was Penny. He dropped me outside of the door and got me to the door, and a midwife took one look at me and she got me a wheelchair and wheeled me straight round. And at this point I was hysterical. They were having building work done in the hospital. There was nobody else around. The corridor's full of builders. I am in the most excruciating pain. Like, strike off what I went through with the cesarean section. This pain was like 50-fold times what I experienced with my cesarean section. That is how intense it is. I have never experienced pain in my entire life. I have never experienced pain like that. And I was hysterical, bent over, had all these builders gulping at me, drills going, like, and obviously my husband's a carpenter, so I'm used to noise. Like, we've had like extensions done, but I think when you're not in the right headspace and you're going through that much pain, I just lost it. And I said, there's no way I can lay down and have a probe pushed into my stomach. And the midwife said, look, we need you to really try, because we need to see what's going on. So how I led there and had the scan, I do not know. But the sonographer had me standing up, laying down, scanning me everywhere, and he said it's a hernia. So you need to be transferred from this maternity unit over to the main building. So we're going to do that at 4 o'clock. You need to see a specialist. So they wheeled me into a room. I kind of got put on my side, and they gave me some oral morph, which kind of just, the pain was still there, but it kind of just sent me a little bit like into la la land, just to make me a bit drowsy. So at this point, Tom was waiting outside with Penny in the car, because I thought it was just going to be an in and out scan, 20 minutes or so, and they'd say, it's just a hematoma or whatever, we can give you this drug to clear it. That's what I thought in my head, because that's what the doctor the night before had like kind of advised. So I'd sent Tom to go and get Darcy and Ollie. I obviously didn't want Penny to be in the main building, because that's where obviously every single ward is, and obviously we all know what's going on with the world, and I just don't want a newborn baby there. I mean, I didn't want to be there. So because I couldn't walk over, they had to arrange transport, so I had an emergency ambulance take me over, and then I was then wheeled round in a wheelchair excuse me, to the hot, they call it the hot clinic, and I was sat there because it's like an ad hoc clinic, so there's people just waiting. So I was just sat there waiting for about 3 hours. I had to keep getting up, bending over, and then I could perch myself on the edge of the seat and sing. The nurses came, took some blood from me, and said the doctors will be with you in a second. The doctor came out about an hour later. At this point it was about 6 p.m, and obviously I'd been sent, well, I'd been at the hospital since 2, and he said, tried to examine my tummy, and he just said, I don't know what it is, I don't think it is a hernia, but obviously there's something there. He said, there's no way you can go home because you can't walk, so I need to admit you. So at this point I'm hysterical. So this is the Tuesday, so I phoned Tom and say, they're admitting me, they won't let me home. They then take me to a ward. Again, I've got to be wheelchaired up because I physically cannot stand up at this point. And they dose me up on medication. And the plan is I was going to have surgery. They said I could eat because I'd been nil by mouth since I got there at 2. They said, do not eat anything in case they need to operate tonight. So the doctor said, we won't operate tonight, so you can go and have some food. I mean, at this point I'm in so much pain, so I didn't even want to eat. But he said, you need to be nil by mouth from 4 a.m. because we'll operate tomorrow. So that would have been the Wednesday. So I'm obviously admitted. Tom's popped up. He did bring Penny, but he wasn't there for very long, because I obviously wanted to see her. I mean, I didn't want her to be there, but the thought of me not being able to see my baby, it just broke my heart, to be honest. It's just, it's just not in a good place. But anyway, so I'm nil by mouth for the Wednesday. I don't end up having the operation on the Wednesday. There's some sort of hold up with it. So they end up hooking up some IV through, fluid through an IV to try and keep my body somewhat hydrated. They said you'll have it on the Thursday. All day Thursday passes. I get sent to another ward higher up in the hospital. Still no operation. The doctor, I go for a CT scan actually late on, when did I have that? Wednesday night. So I was actually on the ward on Wednesday night, and I went for a CT scan. Worst thing I've ever had done, because the IV they used was too small, the cannula. and I had to have dye put through. The pain, I think they've damaged my veins. But anyway, I get wheeled back and the nurse comes in and says, oh, they're not operating, nothing was found on the CT. So by this point I'm hysterical, can't walk, can't get out of bed, I'm in hospital away from all my family. No one can come and see me apart from Tom. Can't see my parents, my sisters, nothing. And so the new nurse comes on shift the following day on a Thursday, and she comes in and I absolutely just break down and say, they're gonna send me home. I don't want to be here, but you can't send me home. I can't walk. I cannot look after my newborn. Like, how can I be a mum to my other 2 children, let alone my newborn? Like, at this point, I didn't mean it personally to her, but I'm like, you've already caused me to stop breastfeeding. Like, I physically cannot feed my baby, which is not what I wanted to do. And she said, no, I'm going to speak to the doctor. So the doctor that saw me originally on Tuesday came around and said, no, you absolutely need an operation. What they did find on the CT is that my bladder was really distorted, so obviously it was like very swollen. So they weren't sure at that point whether my bladder had actually been stitched to my cesarean section scar, which then just kind of like sent me off into all away, not a good place. So long story short, I ended up having the operation at about midnight, so like very early hours of Friday morning. As far as I'm aware, they've told me there was nothing wrong with my bladder. There was no hernia, but what I did have was a massive abscess. So thank goodness that that abscess did not, how do I say this, not in a disgusting way, but it remained intact. Had it of split, things could have been very, very different. So I am very grateful that it didn't and it remained intact. So obviously I had another surgery where my cesarean section scar was opened back up again and I had to be completely cleaned, the abscess removed. So yeah, that is the 4 weeks of my life since my baby was born. So it has been an absolute nightmare. Obviously I'm not trying to have like a pity party, because I know people go through like a lot worse, but I have been to a place mentally where I want to try and get back from. I never want to go again, because it's not been the start to motherhood. Here we go. I knew this was going to happen and I've just taken the last tissue. But yeah, it's not been the start to motherhood that I had planned. Obviously I know you can't make plans, but yeah, it's just been an awful lot. I've actually now refused to see the midwife, so I'm only seeing my health visitor, just because I feel like had I been taken seriously while I was in hospital for the 8 days after she was born, probably this would have been picked up and could have been dealt with while I was already admitted, rather than me suffering for 4 weeks after taking me away from my children, taking obviously the experience. Like, I feel like I've missed so much in regards to Penny. I know she's obviously so tiny still, but there's obviously like days and weeks that I can never get back. I have spoken to the health visitor about trying to breastfeed, because at this point I think I've got hardly any milk left and Penny will not even latch on to me. And well, I have tried to pump a few times, but I'm getting barely anything out. So although I look really comfortable like this now, I'm 6 days post-op from the second op, so I had it done last week. So I'm perched actually on my sofa. I'm not in the most comfortable, so I'm still in a lot of pain. But obviously I'm thinking it's recovery pain because I've been opened back up again. So this is why I've been so MIA on YouTube. I wanted to obviously do like the first 24 hours with Penny, routines with her. I wanted it all documented, so I've got it like for our future to look back on, because she's going to be like the last baby and we've got nothing. But yeah, here's hoping that we're on the road to recovery. I actually have my health visitor tomorrow, so I think I'm going to vlog tomorrow, and then I can kind of update you with what she advises in terms of like my breastfeeding. So at the moment Penny is completely on formula and she's not getting any of my milk, and if it has to be that way, it has to be that way. But I'm really upset about it because it's not what I wanted. I wanted to try and breastfeed her. So she said that there's things that they can do. We can speak to lactation consultants, they can refer me to people for help. So I'm going to see what she says tomorrow. But I think in my, excuse me, also my throat's really sore from when I was put to sleep and had the tube down. That's why my voice is a bit husky. But yeah, I think I've faced the fact now that I can't put too much pressure on myself in terms of feeding, because to get my milk supply back, I'm probably going to need to pump every couple of hours, like day and night. And I mean, I'm not recovered yet. I still can't do the school run. I still can't drive. I still can't walk any distance. I still struggle to like turn over. I can only sleep on my back. I can't lay on my side. So I'm still not 100% me. And that needs to be my focus at the end of the day, because I've got like children that rely on me. But yeah, I wanted to come on. Obviously, I didn't want this to be emotional. My hormones are literally all over the place. So, but yeah, I wanted to give you an update because I know some of you do follow me on Instagram, and I've said I'm going to give an update. And obviously, my videos have been a little bit vague, and I've put like little posts up to keep you updated to say that I am still here. But obviously, I've just kind of gone MIA from uploading twice a week to like nothing for weeks. But yeah, I'm gonna give you a little update on Penny. I'm gonna actually lay her down in her sleepy head and then I'll show you. But yeah, she's 4 weeks old. I don't have a current weight because obviously we've just kind of been left, but I should get one tomorrow. So I'm gonna vlog tomorrow, and then obviously you can see a bit more of her. But she's had her bottle, so she's very, very content. So let me just settle her and then I'll spin the camera around. So as I said, she's 4 weeks old. She may open her eyes because she was just doing... Are you going to open your eyes, darling? You so tired. So she's absolutely amazing. She's such a good girl, bless her. And she's dealt with everything super well. And Dad has been amazing with you, hasn't he? And your brother and sister have been amazing. So yeah, we've got a lot to be thankful for. It's just been a very, very stressful time. But obviously I'm home now. And we've just got a whole future to look forward to. I'm just obviously really sad at the start we've had. But yeah. She's looking super cute in her Zara. I think I showed this in one of my vlogs early on that I bought for her. So it's still a little bit big on her. But she's starting to... She's definitely got more chubby in your cheeks, haven't you, darling? Yeah, oh, you can answer Mummy back, are you? So that is my 4-week postpartum update. I'm sorry it was like a big long ramble, but a lot has happened in 4 weeks, I feel like. But yeah, I'm gonna obviously just bear with me. My videos may not get back to twice a week to start with because I am still recovering. And as much as I love YouTube, I do need to kind of like get myself back so I can obviously be the best mummy to Darcy, Ollie and Penelope. But don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and yeah, if you're not already, if this is the first video, I hope you'll consider subscribing, and we will see you in our next video. We've actually just filmed a decorate for autumn. Obviously we're very late this year because of everything going on, but we've put our autumn decor up, so I'm going to get that up for you, and then I'm going to start getting some vlogs in so you can see us on our journey. But yeah, I think she's missing having cuddles with me now, so I'm gonna go and soak up all these newborn cuddles, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye everyone.
If I had the chance, I'd probably break free. I could have my way, and I could let it be. I could do what I want, but it's just an illusion. Yeah, I sometimes feel like I can go up. I'm drinking beer right out my coffee cup. I wanna do what I want.